Senator O'Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr President. My question is to the Minister for Indigenous Affairs, Senator Scullion. Can the Minister outline to the Senate how this government is making a difference in closing the gap between Indigenous and other Australians?
The Minister for Indigenous Affairs, Senator Scullion.
Thank you, Mr President. Can I congratulate the Senator
Resume your seat, Senator Scullion. You are entitled to be heard in silence on my left. Senator Scullion.
Thank you, Mr President. I thank the Senator for the question and congratulate him on his speech and on his first question. This is a very important question on National Close the Gap Day. Today is a day of reflection. It involves around 165,000 people attending around 1,200 events around the country. I congratulate all of them and the National Close the Gap Committee. But despite billions of dollars being spent on a plethora of programs, there have been few lasting outcomes. The Closing the Gap report, tabled in the House of Representatives in February of 2014, confirmed that there has been little to celebrate 8 years after the Closing the Gap strategy started. National Close the Gap Day is part of a non-government Close the Gap campaign. A key focus is on health, an area my excellent colleague Senator Nash is working hard at. We all know that you cannot have a good health outcome for Aboriginal and Islander Australians without looking at the challenges that they face holistically. The government is making children go to school the government's #1 priority in Indigenous affairs. The Prime Minister has announced a new COAG target. Under the remote school attendance strategy, the government is providing $28.4 million for 400 Aboriginal school attendance officers covering 40 communities. Compared to last year, there are already over 600 more children attending than there were at that stage. And I acknowledge it's early days, but in one school term we have started to narrow that gap.
Senator O'Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr President. I have a supplementary question for the Minister. Can the Minister inform the Senate of the starting point this government faces in terms of the previous government's performance on closing the gap for Indigenous Australians?
Minister.
Under this government, the story of failure is starting to turn around. It's because we are willing to roll up our sleeves, get into the communities, talk to the communities and ensure that we're reflecting their wishes. And this is just the start. The record of the previous government speaks for itself. A read of the 14th Closing the Gap target shows that only 2 out of the 8 targets set in 2008 are on track to be met. This has been no progress on reading, writing, numeracy, and I can tell you in remote areas it's even worse. I, along with my colleagues, will not stop until there is real momentum for change in these areas.
Senator O'Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr President. I have a further supplementary for the Minister. Can the Minister apprise the Senate of any other Closing the Gap targets which were not met by the previous government and how the coalition government intends to address them?
Order. Minister.
Thank you, Mr President. Dismally, there has been no progress made under the employment gap target, a very, very important target. That's why the government commissioned a review of Indigenous training and employment programs led by Andrew Forrest, one of the captains of industry. The review has been commissioned in recognition by this government that you cannot have endless training for training's sake if there's no real jobs at the end of the training. We provide an expectation for our first Australians that if they start training, work hard at the training, that there will be a job at the end for them. The last 6 years in that regard have been an appalling disappointment. The answer is real jobs that provide real skills that give Aboriginal and Islander people real jobs in this economy.